Hello, you're welcome to my channel, Inside with Bismarck, and today we're going to talk about travelers and communication challenges they face, especially when they are traveling to countries like the United States of America or the United Kingdom or any other Western countries. Sometimes communication can be very challenging because of the fact that the language you speak in your country or the kind of English you speak in your country can be different from those countries like United States of America or UK. I mean, the accent and how they pronounce certain words can be very different, and so it can pose a very serious communication challenges and making everyday communication a little bit difficult. Now, if you're coming from a country like the Western African countries like Ghana, Nigeria, there are some words that you pronounce the T in the middle of the word. And even from Eastern African countries like Kenya, Uganda, there are some words that, of course, when you pronounce them and there's T there, you are able to pronounce the T, and that is how the English language is learned. It's probably because of where those countries learn the English language from, the Britain, who also, pronounce the T in certain words. But if you are migrating to the United States of America, that means that not only United States of America, but Canada, that means that about 90% of times when you come across some words that has T's in it, there's more likelihood that you have to swallow those T like a pill, or you have to kick it out because it is not important in the word. And so if you're moving to those countries, you need to be very sure about it, or you need to be very aware about that, so that everyday communication can flow easily for you. Because sometimes it poses a little bit of challenging, and it gets very frustrating when you speak and the person you're speaking to doesn't understand you or doesn't understand you clearly, even though both of you are speaking English because of differences in accent. It poses a little bit of challenging or a little bit of challenge when the person you are speaking to is not able to clearly understand you, or even if he does, you have to repeat yourself. So because of that, you need to be at par with the person, or you need to be at the same pace with the person so that everyday communication can flow easily. So in United States of America or in Canada, there are some words that if you find T in it, that means that the T has to be kicked away. Yes. So that your language will be a little fluid to them, or a little fluid during communication, or very, very much understandable. Sometimes when you pronounce the T in those words, your English becomes so heavy to the extent that you need to repeat yourself. Yes. Okay, so I'm not an expert in English language, so I'm not here to teach English. I'm here to let travelers moving to United States of America or Canada know that there are some words, if you come across them and they have T in the middle of those words, then the T is silent, or it's mentioned as if you're changing the T to D. That is how it sounds in the ears. But in actual sense, the T is such that the tip of the tongue hits the roof of the mouth. So it's called a flapper T. And there are some people who are saying that that happened about 10 years ago. Before then, there were nothing like trying to make the T sound like a D. Just that as time went on, things changed. I mean, pronouncing words actually changed. And so it's become the norm. Such that if you pronounce certain words and you don't make the T sound like a D, that means that your accent becomes so heavy that sometimes you need to repeat yourself over and over. When you're aware of that, it makes your everyday communication very fluid, and it makes your accent very good in such a way that the person you're speaking to is able to understand you clearly, and you don't need to repeat yourself over and over. That sometimes get a little bit frustrating. Yes. So it makes your communication very fluid, very clear, and you are able to, communicate your message without having to have any, problems. Now I'm going to show you some of the words that have T's in them that is pronounced differently in the United States of America or in Canada. That is pronounced in such a way that the T sounds like D, but in actual sense, it is not D. Some of the words are butter. So with butter, it's pronounced like butter, 20, and it's pronounced like 20. Manhattan, it's pronounced like Manhattan. Italy, it's pronounced like Italy. City, is pronounced like city. Better, is pronounced like better. Britain, is pronounced like Britain. Fountain, is pronounced like fountain. Tomato, is pronounced like tomato. Plenty, is pronounced like plenty. Water, is pronounced like water. Internet, is pronounced like internet. Mountain, is pronounced like mountain. Later, is pronounced like later. Bottom, is pronounced like bottom. Button, is pronounced like button. Kitten, is pronounced like kitten. Curtain, is pronounced like curtain. Eaten, is pronounced like eaten. Written can be pronounced like written. So the list goes on and on. So if you found these words, then in order to make your communication very clear to an American or Canadian, then you have to pronounce the T, make it sound like a D. I know those of you coming from the United Kingdom or even the western side of Africa like Ghana, Nigeria, or even the eastern side of Africa like Kenya, Uganda, and some African countries who speak English, and even in some Caribbean countries that speak English like Jamaica. It's very kind of very funny, right? But if you're moving to the United States of America or in Canada, then you must learn how to pronounce these words in such a way that a T sounds like a D, so that your communication becomes very clear and very fluid and makes your communication easily and take you out of frustrations. Frustrations that does not make you repeat your words over and over. To some British people, actually, this is not the Queen's language. This is never the Queen's language. This is not the Queen's language. But to some Americans, actually, this is the flair in modern English language that a lot of the countries are lacking. And I've heard it several times from some African countries that this is what makes the American slangs beautiful. There are some Americans who are also saying that it all depends on which state you live in America, because some states will pronounce the T in the middle of those words, whilst other states will never pronounce the T, makes it sound like a D. So to some Americans, it also depends on where you are living in United States of America. So this is what an American linguist said about this whole issue. As a linguist, I have been following this trend for a few years now, mostly millennials, using glottal stops in place of T's. First time it caught my ear was Kate Hudson advertising her exercise wear by saying it's cute. Every younger HGTV host is redecorating their T's, constantly hearing it's important not to block the mountain with a curtain. Yep. I know language changes and evolves and is a class and or a status marker. Even so, I'm baffled with this one. So this is actually what a linguist from the United States of America said about this whole T issue. And another person also said that I'm from central southern Pennsylvania and in my mid 60s. When I grew up, if you said mountain as mountain or kitten as kitten, our teachers would have freaked out and told us to pronounce the words properly. It literally drives me crazy when I hear this. It just sounds like lazy speech. There is a Medicare commercial on TV now, and the announcer keeps repeating the phone number 1800 as 1800. I could just smash the TV. Now, the whole issue is that if you decide to move to the United States of America or Canada, in order to make your conversation easily and more fluid and easily understandable to the person you're speaking to, then you have to be aware of the fact that some T's in the middle of some words are pronounced as D. I mean, pronounced to make it sound like D. So the more you learn how to pronounce these words like that, the easier it becomes for you to make an easy conversation or prevent you from repeating yourselves over and over. If you love this content, consider subscribing to my channel Inside with Bismarck, and I'll see you with another interesting content. Bye.